UFC 254 happened last weekend. The main event was Conor McGregor versus Dustin Porier, the rematch. They fought back in 2014 on the same card, I believe, as the first Daniel Cormier-John Jones fight. And McGregor won in about a minute and a half by knockout. First clean punch he really hits Porier with. Hits it right behind the ear. Porier goes down. McGregor obviously last couple of fights he's had a rocky time. He was I believe 5-2 in his last 6 before this fight, and obviously he won the titles since he beat Porier the first time, and of course he's lost twice since then. But since that fight, Porier has done just as much as Conor has, if you think about it. I think Conor had won 7 times and lost twice, whereas Porier I think he'd won like 9 and lost twice. And obviously both Conor and Dustin had lost to Khabib, and both of them, since losing to Khabib, had won 1 fight in 2020. So this was a good opportunity, considering how Conor isn't as untouchable. Doesn't appear as untouchable as he used to be, and Dustin is looking much better than he was when they first fought. Obviously, they had a rematch. There was a lot of trash talk going into the first fight. There wasn't that this time. They were very respectful, considering how much each they'd done for the sport. And obviously, since how they changed men, if you think in that sense, it was 6 years ago. They're both fathers, they're both grown men now in their 30s, and they respect each other now. A fight starts, and they start feeling each other out. But what people notice is that Conor, he's quite squatted down. They're the same height, but Dustin looks taller than him because Dustin is stood a bit more upright, ready to check any leg kicks if they come to him. But Conor is very squatted down in like a boxing stance. And now Conor is originally a boxer anyway, / kickboxer, but he stood like a boxer stands. And Dustin exploits that because of how much weight Conor's putting on his lead leg. Conor isn't going to be able to check the leg kicks very quickly. He's not going to be as reactive. So Dustin starts throwing hard kicks at Conor's thigh and calf, and Conor starts trying to open up and trying to counter Dustin when he's coming in with the leg kicks. Lands a couple, and in an exchange where I think they both land, Dustin shoots for I believe a single. I don't know. I'm not sure what kind of takedown it was, but he went for a takedown. I believe it was a double leg, and he gets it. And that's not saying that Conor's got bad takedown defense, because he did do a good job against Khabib in stopping the takedowns in the first round and the third round of their fight. But Conor obviously wasn't expecting Dustin to shoot for a takedown, because for 40 seconds before that, every time they came close, Dustin wouldn't show any signs of a takedown. Obviously, he wanted to give Conor a sense of he wants to trade with me, so obviously he opens up and all of a sudden, boom, he grabs your leg without expecting it. But he gets Conor down to the mat, and he holds him here for about 30 seconds. Not much really happens, but points in the bag and time ticking away for Conor. So Dustin so far is doing a much better job than he done the first time, and he catches Conor a couple of times as Conor's coming in, and Conor's timing looks a little off, and that's what Conor's known for, because Conor is powerful and he is fast, but he always says that precision beats power and timing beats speed. And both Conor's precision and timing didn't seem to be at the same place it has been in recent years. Like when he beat Jose Aldo, like when he fought Nate Diaz the second time, like when he beat Eddie Alvarez especially. It just didn't look like the same Conor. He looked human in there. Even when he wasn't getting hit, he looked a lot more like your standard fighter than the notorious Conor McGregor, if you see what I mean. And second round comes. Conor has won the first round. Most of Dustin's significant strikes were to Conor's leg, not to his face, whereas Conor was the one landing the apparent bigger shots, but at Dustin's face. Now the good thing about headshots and body shots, well, especially headshots, is that if you hit them hard enough, they'll go down right that second. Hit someone in the body enough, they might go down later on. But if you hit someone if you start hitting people in the leg, it's like putting money in a bank. You might not put that much money in the bank in one go, but that will build up and build up and build up. And every time you put in more, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It might not make much sense, but every time Dustin is kicking Conor in the leg, it's affecting Conor more and more and more. And by mid-second round, Conor's footwork isn't as good as it should be, because Conor can't put much weight on his lead leg because of the constant leg kicks from Dustin. And the fight starts going from Conor's fight, and all of a sudden Conor starts landing less and Dustin starts landing more. And there's an exchange where Conor throws a couple shots and Dustin dodges them easily. And everyone's like, oh, geez, Dustin's looking good here. And Dustin moves around Conor, he circles him, puts Conor's back is near the cage, and a combination gets thrown. Not much lands, but all of a sudden Dustin throws a left hand down the pipe, lands clean on Conor. Conor's hurt now. And what we've seen is that once Conor's hurt, the fight's over. When he fought Nate Diaz, he was winning, and in the second round, he got hurt because he got tired, and within 30 seconds of him getting hurt, he shoots for a takedown, gets his back taken and choked out against Nate. Fight is over with pretty soon after Conor loses the grip on his lead, if you get what I mean. And with Khabib, it was Khabib's first round, but as soon as Conor got hurt in that second round, he was never the same. He lost the fight from that point. And now with this fight, as soon as he gets hit, Conor starts trying to move his head, but and get out the way of his shots and trying to throw back. He can't touch Dustin at this point because Conor's shots you can't see straight essentially when you're hurt. Believe me, I've felt it before. It's very hard to land significant strikes when you're hurt. That's why a massive comeback is such a big occurrence when it comes to combat sports, because you might think, hit him back so he won't hit you. It is very hard. If you're already weakened, you don't want to take your hands off your head and risk yourself getting hurt, but also you're more likely to miss because your vision is blurry, your legs are wobbly, and depending on where you've been hit, you might have a sore stomach as well. And in MMA, I don't know this personally, but you might not even be able to walk if you were Conor, especially. I mean, after the fight, Conor literally every time he stood up, he was going, my calf. He couldn't stand very well, and he's limping, and he left the dressing room with a crutch. Those leg kicks done so much damage. He gets caught. He starts trying to throw at Dustin. Dustin starts landing some big shots again, coming over the top, hitting Conor in the head, and this is the first time we've really seen Conor not being tired, stood up, and being outboxed. Yeah, I think ever since, even against Nate Diaz, the only time Nate ever won any part of that fight against Conor was when Conor got tired. And Khabib was winning the fight because he took him down. Dustin is winning from just being a better fighter that night. There was no excuse for Conor. Because Nate Diaz fight, people can say, he went up 2 weight classes. He went from 145 pounds to 170. It's out of Conor's natural weight. Whereas Nate is a bigger dude, he's got a bigger frame, he suits it. So people can make that excuse. And also Conor has never fought a person taller than him. The Khabib fight, Conor was out of the ring for 15 months. Or Conor was out of the ring for 23 months. And also, last person he fought was Floyd Mayweather. So he hasn't trained ground game, or this foot injury, my foot was a balloon, stuff like that. There was excuses with that. This fight, there was no excuses. This is the first time I think most people have gone, what's going to happen with Conor, because he is not the same. And eventually the drop comes. Dustin hits him because Conor goes to lower his head to try and dodge a hook, but a hook basically Dustin throws a short right hook and it hits Conor right on the front of the face. Conor falls back, his back leaning against the cage and on the canvas, and Dustin hits him again twice, and the referee Herb Deaney steps in and waves off the fight, and Dustin and Conor are 1-1. So there's a big question. What next? Should there be a trilogy fight with Dustin Poirier, or should Dustin move on to better things? Should he fight the next person above him, which would be either Khabib if he comes back, or Justin Gaethje? And now what's next for Conor, because Conor's got so much money now. I think he's the first UFC fighter to have over 100 million in his bank account, and most of that is just from fighting Floyd Mayweather. But what is next for Conor McGregor? Because in his last 6 UFC fights, he's lost 3 of them. Lost to Nate Diaz, then he won against Nate Diaz, then he beat Eddie Alvarez, then he lost to Khabib, then he beat Cowboy, now he's lost to Dustin. He's got 3 wins and 3 losses. You can't say that Conor is the best fighter in the world, or even the best fighter in his weight class, when you've won as many times as you've lost in the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years. There's not much you can really argue about that. You might say, oh, it's not Conor's best, but if you're losing 3 times in the last 6 fights, they ain't flukes. I'm sorry, but it has to be said. I would say Conor should fight someone kind of like Cowboy, where they fought a lot, had a few losses, but isn't like top 5. I would recommend him fight someone like Al Iaquinta or Kevin Lee, or a very good mixed martial artist, not just a stand-up fighter or just a grappler. Find someone like Kevin Lee, who is a good all-rounder. And I would say for Dustin Poirier, either fight someone like... No, I wouldn't even say Tony Ferguson, because Tony's lost his last 2 and he got dominated in both of those fights. It's hard for Dustin because number 1 contender is Justin Gaethje. Dustin already beat Justin Gaethje. Obviously Dustin's number 2. Number 3 is Charles Oliveira. That's a good fight. That would be a good one to see. I'm sure lots of people would want to see Charles Oliveira get his next fight soon, considering how easily he dispatched of Kevin Lee and Tony Ferguson last year. And because we don't really know what to do with Tony Ferguson, considering what happened in his last 2 fights. I wouldn't like to see him come back, if I'm honest. He is in his late 30s and he's been dominated in his last 2, especially in his last fight against Charles Oliveira, because there was moments with Tony in the Justin Gaethje fight, but there was nothing Tony had for Charles Oliveira in his first fight. He even fouled Charles Oliveira, in all fairness. Yeah, what I think would be good is if we saw Dustin Poirier versus Charles Oliveira, and Conor McGregor versus someone like Al Iaquinta or Kevin Lee. Someone who's got a few losses, but is still a very, very good mixed martial artist, and who knows the whole game. Isn't a specialist in either stand-up or the ground game. It's a hard time for Conor right now, and I wouldn't be too surprised if he retired. And it's strange because this is one of the rare occasions where the loser comes out with more opportunities than the winner, because if Khabib hadn't already fought Justin recently, if Khabib hadn't recently fought Dustin Poirier and beat him recently, then I would say Khabib fights Dustin. But because Khabib dominated Dustin Poirier and also has now retired, it's a question now, what happens? Because if Khabib is retired, there needs to be a vacant title fight. Who's that going to be with? Is it going to be Charles Oliveira and Dustin Poirier? That would be a good one. But if Conor has a trilogy fight with Dustin Poirier, should that have a title on the line? Because that means then if Conor pulls a win out the bag against Dustin Porier in the third fight, he's the lightweight champion, but he's lost three in his last 7 in that sense. Does he deserve a title in his next win? I don't think so.